Hello and a very good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Let's begin as always with the latest headlines. Identities of the three suspects in the attack on Charlie Hebdo in Paris confirmed as one of them surrenders. President Francois Hollande calls it a terror attack, declares January 8th as National Day of Mourning. Pakistan's Supreme Court orders 2611 mastermind Zakir Rahman Lakhvi to remain in jail, overturns a bail order by the High Court. Workers of Coal India end their strike after meeting with Coal Minister Piyush Goyal. Government assures them what Coal India will not be privatized. And Sri Lankans vote to choose their next president. Incumbent President Mahinda Rajapakse in direct fight with his former Health Minister Maithripala Sirisena. Well, let's begin with the dastardly attack that took place in Paris yesterday. I am Charlie. A message of solidarity is being sent out to the men who unleashed terror on the offices of satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo. French President Francois Hollande has called the attack barbaric and said that the perpetrators will not be spared. Well, in the latest information coming in at the moment, of course, it is understood that the youngest of the three attackers has surrendered before the police and he is in police custody, and the search is still on for the two brothers and the other two suspects, that is those two brothers who are still at large. Joining me for a chat this morning on this very subject is Commodore C. Uday Bhaskar, Director, Society for Policy Studies. Very good morning, Commodore, and thank you for joining us on the program. Well, this was indeed a dastardly attack that took place in Paris yesterday. Now, the hunt is on for the two brothers, the main suspects as far as the attack is concerned. One of them, that is the youngest one, has the third suspect, of course, has already surrendered before the police. Now, how do you see this entire episode turning out in the future, and what's likely to happen as far as this issue is concerned?
The killing in Paris, the massacre at this satirical magazine that had resulted in the death of 12 innocent people and has injured 5 more, is at one level very anguishing, and today we see that all of Paris and France are in a degree of sadness and grief. But at the same time, I would characterize this as a challenge of our times, which is to say that for the global community, increasing levels of intolerance associated with what we are now seeing as the fervor that permeates groups like the Islamic State and its other clones or other groups that have a similar ideology is now being manifest in this manner. And why this particular killing in Paris is significant or relevant for all of us is the kind of justification that is being offered, that if certain quote-unquote lines are crossed, then any of the aggrieved members can take recourse to violence. So what is being threatened, Frank, if I may, is one, the role and relevance of satire in our society, the freedom of expression and the role of journalists per se or the media, and finally, I think the way in which radical ideologies are now crisscrossing the entire globe, and such premeditated and ruthless murder is going to be a challenge, I think, to civil society and the state security establishment globally.
Indeed.
How do you deal with this particular fervor is going to be our challenge.
Indeed, it is going to be a major challenge, and it remains to be seen how various governments, in fact, deal with it. Do stay with us, Commodore. I'm going to come back to you for another reaction. But for the time being, let's take a look at a detailed report as to what exactly happened as far as this attack is concerned.
French police have identified 3 suspects in the brutal attack on the headquarters of satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo in Paris on Wednesday. The hunt for the 3 is on. Among the 3 suspects, 2 have been under police radar for several years now. The victims of the terror attack have also been named. They include the publication's editor-in-chief, his bodyguard, 3 cartoonists, an economics writer, a guest and 2 police officers. President François Hollande immediately declared the attack as an act of terror and called it an assault on the freedom of the press. He also announced January 8th as the National Day of Mourning.
Et c'est pourquoi demain sera une journée de deuil national, je l'ai décrété. Il y aura à 12 heures un moment de recueillement dans tous les services publics. Et j'invite toute la population à s'y associer.
The attack has outraged the world, with world leaders, journalist groups and others expressing horror at the brutality of the attack.
This horrific attack is meant to divide. We must not fall into that trap. This is a moment for solidarity. Around the world, we must stand strong for freedom of expression and tolerance and stand against the forces of division and hate.
Die heute Opfer zu beklagen haben. Wir stehen zu den unverbrüchlichen Werten von Pressefreiheit, von Freiheit, von Demokratie und unsere Gedanken sind bei den Franzosen und wir werden alles tun, um Frankreich zu helfen in einer so schwierigen Situation.
Hundreds of people gathered in Paris's Place de la République in solidarity with those killed. Tributes poured in from around the world.
Qu'ils ont été assassinés par des gens qui ne veulent ni générosité, ni tolérance, ni humanité. Donc c'est terrible, c'est un accablement.
Je trouve ça grave, surtout que c'est à Paris, donc sur la capitale, donc je trouve ça vachement grave.
The attack has prompted a wave of global solidarity with Charlie Hebdo over what is being seen as a direct attack on the freedom of expression. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Commodore Uday Bhaskar, I'm going to come back to you now for another reaction. Of course, we've seen of late that countries across the nation, across the world have increased security, and hence it's become more and more difficult for terror organizations to carry out terror attacks. So is this the new face of terror that we are seeing? You know, smaller attacks, coordinated attacks taking place across the world?
Yeah, I think that would be a fair characterization. That whereas earlier we had the large groups and the way in which we associated, whether it was the Al-Qaeda or its variants, today the challenge is likely to be these small groups which are very well trained and have a specific objective, which is to spread terror, mayhem and violence in this manner. In this particular incident, I am sure that the French police will soon have more evidence and more information about the identity of the perpetrators. But on the basis of what we saw in the video footage that had been released yesterday, it's very evident that this is a group that was exceedingly well trained, professional, premeditated. And there are reports to suggest that in Europe alone, we are talking about maybe 1,500 to 2,000 citizens of individual countries, whether it is France, whether it's Britain or Germany, who have joined the IS or any of its variants, and some have come back. So as I see it for the near future, for the next couple of years, many countries in Western Europe are likely to see this kind of a pattern, and therefore the need to be able to preempt carnage and killing of this nature, which is going to be the challenge.
Well, Indeed, it's going to be a major challenge. Now, can we term this as a one-off attack, or is it going to be something that we're going to see? You did mention that it's going to be a major challenge for Western Europe, as you know, in particular. But what about India as well? India also has been put on high alert. You know, the government has asked several security personnel to ensure that there is tight security across the national capital as well. So, ahead of Obama's visit, what can we expect something?
Well, I would say that as far as the Paris killings are concerned, it is not quite one-off, because while the scale of the violence and the number of people who have been killed is definitely distinctive, you will recall that the same magazine had also been firebombed when they had republished the Danish cartoons as far as the Prophet Muhammad was concerned and the lampooning. Now, over the last 3 years, this magazine was identified and it was also accorded a certain degree of protection, but clearly that was not enough. As far as we are concerned in India, my own sense is that this whole issue of intolerance and the way in which we have had certain, I would say, recent experiences related to both politics and religion is cause for concern. I think any society which quote-unquote legitimizes or justifies intolerance for one reason or the other, it's a very slippery slope. So I think we need introspection both by state and society as to what kind of a culture we are going to engender in India itself. And more immediately, I think in the run-up to Republic Day, with President Obama coming, there would be, I think, a natural sense of higher alert status across the capital in particular. But at the same time, premeditated violence, and it's not as if we in India are either unaware or not familiar with what has happened. So I think there should be an overall increase in awareness, and the security agencies need to acquire those capabilities to preempt such attacks. Frank?
All right. Commodore Uday Bhaskar, thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning and sharing your views with us. We'll have to leave it at that. Moving on now, of course, 2611 terror mastermind Zakir Rahman Lakhvi is to stay in jail. The Pakistan Supreme Court overturned the High Court order saying Lakhvi be set free, directing that the case be heard again and decided on merit. Indian security analysts, however, say that keeping Lakhvi in jail can't be seen as seriousness against anti-India terror. Here's more.
It's back to jail again, days after the 2611 kingpin saw hopes of getting back on the terror trail. As per orders, the High Court will now hear the case afresh starting Monday next week. The court has been asked to decide the case on merit without rushing things through. To think the man almost walked free. An anti-terrorism court had granted Lakhvi bail on the 18th of December. The very next day, however, he was detained under the Maintenance of Public Order Act. Then on the 29th, the Islamabad High Court suspended that detention. Now the Supreme Court steps in. After sharp protest and concern over plans to let him out, security analysts in India voiced relief.
Pakistan Army has to show an image where they have to show that they are bereaving for their children, who have 140 odd children have been killed. And they cannot let the terrorists like this just go on bail and roam freely. India also will now get a little bit of, shouldn't say a little bit, but quite a lot of confidence into this, their own effort. They're raising their voice, the public speaking, the media are talking about it, and the pressure they're creating on Pakistan. So it all has summed up totally into this action.
Though many warn that just this step cannot be read as Pakistan's seriousness on action in the 2611 case.
This is a decision that is to be cautiously welcomed. After Peshawar, there has been what you might call as a change as far as the perception or the attitude towards terrorism per se in Pakistan.
Lakhvi and 6 others have been charged with planning and executing the 2611 attacks. They were indicted in 2009, a year after the attack, and the case has moved slowly since. Political leaders in India stress on the need for definite forward movement.
आतंकवादियों को तो जेल में ही होना चाहिए, इसमें कोई बड़ी बात है नहीं। जहां तक पाकिस्तान पर प्रश्न उठते हैं, जब हाफिज सईद जैसे लोग घूमते हैं खुलेआम, सरेआम, जबकि उनके ऊपर में इतना बड़ा एक रेजोल्यूशन है, $10 बिलियन का एक अवार्ड है, तब भी तो इसीलिए वो प्रश्न उठ जाते हैं दोहरी नीति के। लेकिन अगर वो इन दोनों के ऊपर में अच्छे से कार्रवाई करें तो 26/11 के लोगों को कुछ इंसाफ मिल जाएगा।
In keeping Lakhvi behind bars, Pakistan is seen as keen to show up an anti-terror stand in the backdrop of the Peshawar school attack, especially in the light of high-level US visits to India. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, it's time for a short break now, but still to come, stricter rules for road safety soon. Details after this short break. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Back, you're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, workers of Coal India called off their strike last night after a meeting between union workers and Coal Minister Piyush Goyal. The 5-day strike that started on Tuesday had severely affected Coal India's daily target, with only half of it being met on the first day. This hampered the government's efforts to reform the country's coal industry and ease its power crisis. The miners were protesting Prime Minister Narendra Modi's move to allow private companies to mine and sell the fuel for the first time in 42 years. The Modi government is of the opinion that increasing competition is key to ending India's power shortage. But the workers feared privatization would lead to pay and job cuts. Their fears were put to rest at the meeting, with the Coal Minister assuring them that Coal India would not be privatized. Coal India has a permanent workforce of over 2.8 lakh, excluding supervisors and executives, and also employs about 65,000 contract workers.
The strike is called off. Strike को वापस ले लिया गया है. मेरी मुख्यमंत्रियों से भी बातचीत हो गई है कि किसी प्रकार का कोई विंडिक्टिवनेस, कोई पुलिस अधिकारी लोअर लेवल पे या किधर भी गलत प्रकार का व्यवहार न हो कामगारों के साथ. और मैंने आश्वस्त किया है कि कोल इंडिया को प्राइवेटाइज नहीं किया जा रहा है और उसका मैनेजमेंट एंड कंट्रोल पूरे रूप से सरकारी रहेगा.
हम लोगों ने कभी नहीं कहा है कि ये डायरेक्ट निजीकरण है. हम लोगों ने कहा ग्रेजुअल निजीकरण है. अगर प्राइवेट ऑपरेटर्स अगर कोयला बेचने की अनुमति मिलेगी प्राइवेट कंपनीज को, तो ये ग्रेजुअल डाइल्यूशन ऑफ कोल इंडिया होगा, कमजोर होगा.
Well, the 13th Pravasi Bharatiya Divas will be formally inaugurated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Gandhinagar today. The Prime Minister reached Gujarat yesterday to a grand welcome. Prime Minister Modi will be looking to promote the rejuvenated brand India and attract investments from overseas. His trips to America, Japan and Australia last year reconfirmed that India was back in the reckoning. He will also be promoting his ambitious Make in India project. India's diaspora population is growing fast, becoming increasingly influential, including leaders of government agencies and high-tech corporations such as Microsoft, and that's the potential the Modi government hopes to tap.
My young global Indians, come, connect, celebrate, contribute and become a part of the momentous transformation taking place in the country to build Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat. What excites the world most about India today is the Indian economy, which is now the third largest in terms of purchasing power parity and is showing new dynamism under the present government.
Moving on now, political bonhomie between two arch political rivals was seen at the Global Bengal Business Summit in Kolkata yesterday. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley and West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee not only shared the stage but promised to usher in an era of greater cooperative federalism. Jaitley said India will grow further if the states grow collectively.
The inaugural Global Bengal Business Summit witnessed on-stage display of mutual cooperation and respect between BJP and Trinamool Congress. As host, the tone of the day's meeting was set by Mamata Banerjee, who called for an end to political differences to pave way for development.
Political development, it cannot destroy the country's development. So let us work together. This is a very good conference. I will request you be positive. Don't go to play every time the negative.
Finance Minister Arun Jaitley asked the Trinamool Congress-led state government to broaden its manufacturing base to create more jobs. He said the centre will support states in each rupee of their investments.
In all areas where the states want to prosper, we are here to fully support you. The centre and the states have to cooperate with each other. You have a mandate to rule here, we have a mandate to rule in Delhi. We have to cooperate with each other to fulfill that mandate.
The Finance Minister also announced a number of steps to boost the state's economic health. He said that West Bengal would benefit from coal auction and implementation of the Goods Services Tax. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The Delhi police has served a notice to Shashi Tharoor asking him to join investigations into the mysterious death of his wife Sunanda Pushkar. The Congress MP, who is currently in Kerala, has been asked to join the probe at the earliest legal notice has been issued to Tharoor to join the murder probe. He is likely to be questioned under Section 160 of the Criminal Penal Code. This after the Delhi police registered a case of murder earlier this week following the final report from the Board of Doctors, which conducted a post-mortem on Pushkar. An SIT formed by the police is probing the case. Pushkar was found dead in a South Delhi hotel on January 17th last year. Well, stricter rules for road safety are on the anvil, with the new motor vehicles bill likely to be tabled in the budget session of Parliament. The new bill focuses on transforming the sector and bringing Indian road safety norms in sync with the world's most advanced countries.
An answer to the dire need for corrections in now obsolete road safety laws. A sharp surge in the sheer number of vehicles on the roads and the need to regulate them better makes this legislation long overdue. Road Transport and Highways Minister Nitin Gadkari expressed hopes of it coming through soon.
हमने अमेरिका, जर्मनी, जापान, इंग्लैंड सभी देशों का अध्ययन किया और मेरा विश्वास है कि अगले पार्लियामेंट सेशन में हम इस एक्ट को मंजूर करने में यशस्वी होंगे.
The government says it seeks to put in place a corruption-free and transparent system with a proper record of driving licenses. Seeking to come down heavily on traffic offenders, the government proposes steep penalties for violators going up to 3 lakh rupees. The bill even proposes a 7-year jail term for causing the death of a child under certain circumstances. In the winter session, the government had introduced a motor vehicles amendment bill to regularize battery-driven rickshaws. The Lok Sabha passed it, but it could not get through the Rajya Sabha. The cabinet then approved promulgation of an ordinance to pave the way for plying of e-rickshaws in the national capital region. This new bill is different, looking for a more comprehensive road traffic overhaul. Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, let's now take a look at all the other national news we are tracking in nationwide. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has announced the appointment of Atul Khare as Under Secretary General Department of Field Support. A UN statement said Khare brings to the position strategic management and innovative reform expertise in both headquarters and field perspective. Dr. Khare has a long senior career with the UN, most recently as Assistant Secretary General leading the change management team. SpiceJet has failed to give a comprehensive revival plan to the government so far, even as its dues towards the Airports Authority of India mounted to 240 crore rupees. The budget carrier had presented a plan to the Civil Aviation Ministry late last month, but was told to give a revised comprehensive plan with more details. The airline was expected to include details on the proposed investments last week. Some regional parties are planning to intensify the stir against the NDA government on issues related to farmers and labour class. JDU President Sharad Yadav slammed Modi government yesterday for bringing an ordinance on land acquisition, MMRDA and FDI in the insurance sector. The party criticised the government for promulgating ordinances on important policy issues. JDU, along with its Janta Parivar allies, will launch a nationwide stir against the centre on these issues. After a brief lull, intense cold is back in North India. The national capital woke up to a foggy morning today with visibility reduced considerably. As a result, rail and air traffic was severely affected. Several trains are running late and flights have also been delayed. The cold claimed at least 3 lives in UP and Delhi on Wednesday. Moving on to some international news now, Sri Lankans are voting to choose their next president today. The election, which was called for 2 years before schedule, will see a close contest between incumbent President Mahinda Rajapakse and his former Health Minister Maithripala Sirisena, who is now contesting from the UNP. Rajapakse is looking for a third term.
Millions of Sri Lankans are voting for their next president. Incumbent President Mahinda Rajapakse is seeking a third term amid a flurry of defections and criticism over his authoritarian rule. But Rajapaksa urged voters to back the devil they know rather than an unknown angel.
මේක තමයි මෙයාලගේ තියෙන ලොකුම හිසරදය. ඇමරිකාවට තියෙන හිසරදෙත්මාව, යුරෝපයට තියෙන හිසරදෙත්මාව, අනිත් බලගතු සමහරුන්ට තියෙන හිසරදෙත්මාව බටහිර ලෝකේ මට කරන්න දෙයක් නෑ. මාතෘ භූමිය වෙනුවෙන් මා පෙනී සිටිය යුතුයි.
This election is being seen as the closest presidential race in decades, and Rajapaksa's challenger this time is his former cabinet colleague Mithripala Sirisena. Sirisena was the health minister in the Rajapaksa government till about 2 months ago.
සාමය ලබා ගැනීමෙන් පසුව මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මහත්මයාට විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ රටේ ජනතාව මහරජාණෝ කියලා අමතන්න වීමෙන් පසුව එතුමා කල්පනා කළා රජෙක් විදිහටම හැසිරෙන්න ඕනේ කියලා හිතා. එතුමා බලයට පත් කරපු ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂය අමතක කළා. එතුමාගේ ඇමති මණ්ඩලයේ කට වැහුවා. එතුමාගේ ආණ්ඩු පක්ෂයේ කණ්ඩායමේ කටවල් වැහුවා. අධිකරණයේ අගවිනි සුරුතුමිය සිරානි බණ්ඩාරනායක මැතිණිය තනතුරෙන් ඉවත් කරලා විනිශ්චයකාරවරුන්ගේ කටවල් වැහුවා. රාජ්‍ය සේවය, පොලිසිය සියල්ල රාජපක්ෂ පවුලේ පාලනයට ගත්තා. එතනින් නැවතුනේ නැහැ. මේ රටේ කිසිම නායකයෙක් කිසිම ආණ්ඩුවක් නොකළ ආකාරයට අන්ත දූෂිත පාලනයක් පටන් ගත්තා.
Almost 2 lakh government officials and 65,000 police officers have been deployed to man over 12,000 polling booths. But opposition is worried over reports of rigging that could happen in these elections.
We are getting a lot of information from different parts of the country regarding rigging this election. We won't allow that to happen. We will give our 100% and try and change this entire regime.
Rajapaksa is considered a hero among the Sinhalese community for putting an end to the ethnic war with LTTE. But the divisions between the Sinhalese and the Tamil community this time have forced many to believe that Rajapaksa's power may be on the decline now. His fate will be clear when results are declared on Friday. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, let's now bring you up to date with the other significant stories from around the world in our World Wrap. A man believed to be the leader of Nigerian militant group Boko Haram has threatened to step up violence in Cameroon unless the country scraps its constitution and embraces Islam. A video posted online shows a man who looks like the group's head, Abubakar Shekau. The man's identity is not clear as he has been filmed from a distance at different angles. Authorities have found mass graves with 10 bodies and 11 heads in the rest of southern Mexican state of Guerrero. The mass graves were uncovered as police scoured the area for nearly 4 dozen missing students. The remains were found on a hillside on the outskirts of the town of Chilapa in 6 graves which were still fresh. Authorities were led to the area after receiving an anonymous tip. The identities of the dead were not immediately clear. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has confirmed that the Palestinians will officially become a member of the International Criminal Court on April 1st. Palestine had delivered documents on joining the Rome Statute of the ICC and other international treaties to UN headquarters on Friday. The move has heightened tensions with Israel and could lead to cuts in US aid. For all the latest sporting news from around sports arenas across the world, here's the latest sports beat. Ahead of the ICC Cricket World Cup 2015, Pakistan, Sri Lanka and South Africa have announced their World Cup squads. Pakistan have included veteran batsman and former skipper Yunus Khan, while Mohammad Hafiz, whose bowling action is under the scanner, has also been given a spot in the team to be led by Misbah-ul Haq. Sri Lanka has named Angelo Matthews as the captain for the tournament. The team has included veteran players like Mahela Jayawardene, Dilshan and Sangakkara. Defending champion Stanislav Wawrinka advanced to the quarterfinals of the Chennai Open, beating Croatian teenager Borna Koric 6-1, 6-4 on Wednesday. Top-seeded Wawrinka won 5 straight games to open the match. He will now face 8th-seeded Gilles Muller, who defeated Elias Yamir of Sweden 6-4, 6-3. France took a marathon 5 hours to beat Australia 2-1 in the Hopman Cup Group B match in Perth on Wednesday. Elise Cornet faced a local hero Cassie Delacroix in the women's singles, which lasted 2 hours. The French women lost the opening set 6-4 but bounced back to level the score by taking the second 7-5. Cornet, ranked 18th in the world, cruised through 6-1 in the final set to beat her opponent. Bundesliga champions Bayern Munich resumed preparations for the second half of the season after an 18-day break on Wednesday. The Bavarians, who conceded only 3 goals in 14 league games in 2014, are set to kick off their season on January 30th as they face second-placed VfL Wolfsburg. Following a medical and performance checks today, the team will fly to Qatar for a mid-season training camp. That's it on this edition of The Breakfast News. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.